à-bas-le-ciel.
But I have a friend of mine who subscribed to my YouTube channel after I had a discussion with Vegan Gains, and oh my God, this girl! If there was a word passionate and you looked up the definition, it's her. So I follow her on Instagram. Her name is Maria, by the way. So she'll probably watch this discussion. If she's watching this, she'll know I'm talking about her. She's from Sweden, and in Sweden they fight for a lot of different social causes. So apparently there's like a huge presence of Nazis. I was not aware of that until she brought it to my attention. So she fights against Nazism. She fights against animal products industry, all that fun stuff. And one thing I notice every single day, I kid you not, she's out and about on the streets, at an animal farm, at the factory farms. She's out there and she's spreading the message. And she's shown me videos, she's shown me pictures where the police have gotten involved and had to be escorted. She tells me how they tip down deer hunting stands where they hunt deer. She hates hunters. And it's crazy. Like, the one thing that she's super adamant about are these stickers that she makes. So the way she travels is she'll use public transportation. She'll take these stickers everywhere she goes, like a good stack of like 100, 200 stickers, start pasting them everywhere. Go vegan, go vegan, go vegan. She's basically like leaving her footprint.
Yeah.
And it's not just her. Like, obviously it's a group and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, so I know you're not asking me a question. I'm gonna respond as if it's a question.
Go ahead.
What ended the Vietnam War? So this may seem like it's totally unrelated, but it's not. For me, this really is the answer. Now, there were a lot of specific incidents during the Vietnam War that excited similar passions, and it's understandable. To my knowledge, only one man was ever actually fully prosecuted in a military court for misconduct in Vietnam. One excuse or another was always found to derail, delay, or cancel basically trials for war crimes, crimes against humanity, misconduct by U.S. soldiers in Vietnam. But that case was of a soldier having improper conduct with an underage girl in an interrogation room. He was raping a female child. And I think everybody who knew anything about that case knew this was not the only incident with this guy. There was a lot of rape in Vietnam. U.S. soldiers did rape a lot of women. There was torture. And some of the guys who committed the torture showed up at the House of Congress, what are called the Winter Soldier hearings, and complained. Right. So the guys carrying out, it's not even like speculative. They themselves had done this torture, and they wanted to give depositions to Congress and say, hey, this is kind of over the line what we're doing. So that stuff, makes people passionate. To some extent, you wonder why are people so resigned to crimes against humanity being committed by U.S. soldiers. However, would it solve the problem? So what is the problem? Okay, first of all, the problem here we're addressing is specifically accountability and discipline in the U.S. Armed Forces. That is the problem. We're not talking about the broader question of whether or not you should invade Vietnam in the first place. The point is, given that you have an army in Vietnam, that you're raping and torturing people. Okay, so standards of human rights, decency, and then accountability when those standards are violated, discipline, that's what you're talking about. Nobody could possibly believe, nobody's even going to debate with me, is the way to improve those standards in the U.S. military by doing what your friend Maria is doing. It can't possibly be. Now, what is the way to do it? Okay, then we can make a flow chart and say, okay, how are we going to actually address the question of raising standards of conduct and accountability for U.S. Armed Forces abroad? And I think that's a debate worth having, and that would be a political movement worth leading and devoting years of your life to, and people donating millions of dollars to. Ultimately, all these things have a price tag. But I sympathize with someone who just wants to, frankly, go crazy. And there were people in the 1960s, and I think probably still so now, just put up stickers saying the U.S. Army raped this person, the U.S. Army tortured this person, this is unacceptable, these are atrocities and crimes against humanity. But as soon as we take a step beyond that, we start thinking about outcomes and impacts, and we start thinking about how many hours and years of our life we're putting into it. We have to come to a better methodology. So that is my answer to the question. And there's a kind of necessary irony here because, again, Direct Action Everywhere, they were founded on the promise that they were learning the lessons of history. And already with this one example, you see that it's impossible to just point to the lessons of history. That's one lesson I take from the history of the Vietnam War, and that's been a part of my life in various ways. Other people can read the same history and not take that lesson at all, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's that's my answer.
I really agree with you on that. Like, I don't think we're gonna have to argue on that point of view. It's just some people, they do so much, but they don't realize that the magnitude that they're doing it at is very small, if not minimal. So
right. Okay, so look, sorry, I have one more thing. Okay, great, that's a really good point. But look, okay, so my comparison there was to ultimately to a question of discipline. You're asking the Army to be disciplined or to have self-discipline, and and in some ways, I think that is like the culture of meat eating, where you're looking, for most of us, you're looking at your own mother or your own father and saying, why can't you have some accountability? Why can't you have some self-discipline? So, I mean, I don't think it's totally irrelevant to speak in those kinds of loaded ethical terms of personal responsibility and accountability. And then there's a larger cultural scale to it also. There's the culture of the military, sure. Look, I am an atheist. I see a lot wrong with Islam. How really are you going to change a Muslim majority country culturally? How are we going to change Saudi Arabia or Indonesia or Malaysia? We could pick other examples. It's not going to be through Maria's tactics. Again, I'm not picking on Maria, but if you asked her, what if you were living in a country where 99% of the population is Muslim, like Indonesia? Is this what you do? Would you go around putting up stickers saying circumcision destroys 50% of the nerve endings in your penis? Circumcision is child abuse. There's a good example. A sticker that says circumcision is child abuse. Of course, on a scientific, factual level, I agree with this statement. Circumcision is terrible. However, on a political level, and even on an artistic level, artistically, this is an artistic and creative challenge. How are we going to change the culture? And this is why I'm using this. This is much different from the military question. I don't think there's so much of an artistic question and creative challenge. That's more of a purely political question. It's not going to be through these tactics. And on the contrary, you may get killed using her tactics in Saudi Arabia or Indonesia. Not even necessarily by the government, just local, sincerely religious people may take offense. And again, to be fair, Orthodox Jews in Israel may kill you if you piss off Orthodox and Hasidic Jews. So there are every so often religious conflicts of that even within Judaism. So that is the magnitude of the challenge we're up against. So again, I sympathize with people who are perhaps overcome with passion and want to do these things, but I do think we can say it's strategically, tactically, and even artistically or aesthetically kind of wrong. I think it's a 300-year thing. I do. Yep. I'm just being honest. I think veganism is a 300-year struggle. And if you look at, I think it is fair to say, what is the future of Saudi Arabia over 300 years? I think that is. Yeah, sure. I think that is the kind of timeline. Which for me is not an excuse for indifference, but cultural and human rights progress. Even China, it's incredibly depressing. What's really possible in the next 50 years in communist China? You worry. So yeah, I do see these things as very deep, very long-term struggles. Now, okay, quick devil's advocate. What's the best thing about Maria's approach? 2, 1, she's going to meet other people who also care about it and want to make a difference. And that is very positive. I say that all the time. One of the main reasons I came on the internet was to make friends, meet colleagues, get organized, save the world. You can't do it alone. So she's probably going to be less isolated because she's doing this form of activism than she otherwise would be. And point 2, there is an educational and learning process involved. Now, okay, some people are so stupid they're not going to learn from anything. I remember I got a story. So, I used to do humanitarian work, and I got a story from someone else doing humanitarian work. We were in Southeast Asia, but this woman had previously been in Africa, in an area in Africa where there was a civil war going on. And she met a white tourist who signed up to fight with the communist rebels in this civil war in Africa as a tourist, And I asked her, I said, so at what point did he stop and reconsider the ethics or the morality of what she was doing? She said, you know what it was? One day, the guy standing right next to him got shot in the head. That's, in his case, that's what it took, was standing next to someone who gets shot in the head. Sorry to laugh, guys, but I mean it's gruesome. And,
cool,
and I assume she didn't include. I assume he would have, cradled this guy as he was dying and stuff. I assume he would have.
Yeah.
I don't think he just ran away. I assume he, tried to help this guy or something too. I don't know. And then he started to ask himself the tough questions. So even if it is, shall we say, negative learning from seeing things go wrong, it's probably true that she's going to look around. Again, even someone, most people I've spoken to who were involved with Direct Action Everywhere, they got involved, they saw what the organization was doing wrong, and then they said, ooh, this is really messed up. Financially, organizationally, ethically, and running onto a baseball field for 30 seconds and then go spend a week in prison, because it's not that serious a charge, don't get me wrong, but still, the legal stuff is a big deal. It's not effective. This is not worth it. So, Pete, there is a learning process that goes on also. So I would say those are the two most positive things about Maria's approach. Yeah.
À-bas-le-ciel.